Yeah, and you see, that's one of the reasons why we're here, is to not wait until the storm hits, you know, but to understand the storm is going to hit, right? And to understand that there is a way to be present to it when it happens that will alleviate the suffering, not the pain when it comes to physical reality. But remember the difference, and this is really an important difference to keep in mind. The suffering is when you're resisting what's happening. Suffering is when what's happening doesn't fit your ideas about how it should be, you know. It doesn't fit your ideas, or it doesn't fit your beliefs, doesn't fit what you want to have happen, right? That's where the suffering comes in. And so just to train yourself to notice, you know, one of the teachers that I'm friends with wrote a book called Notice. The book was called Notice, and every chapter was notice this, notice this, notice this. Because noticing is what happens when you're aware. When you're aware, you notice, you see what you weren't seeing. You were blind to it, you were ignorant of it, you were ignoring it, and now you're not ignoring it, you're being present to it. And so if you notice, if you practice noticing, you could say noticing and meditation are you could exchange the words. When you're practicing meditation, you're practicing noticing. Because when you're practicing meditation, you're practicing being aware, and when you're aware, you notice. When you're aware, you see what's there to be aware of. And so what's there to be aware of that we don't want to keep ignoring is what I referred to earlier. What's there that we don't want to keep ignoring is there are times when something happens that triggers a reaction, and when that reaction gets triggered, we go into a mental state, we go into an emotional state. And when that happens, without noticing, see, if you don't see it happen, then in a flash, you're in it, and you didn't see it happen.
Isn't noticing a thought?
No. Noticing is the focus of attention. It's a focus of attention. And I'm glad you asked the question, because as I said in one of the earlier classes, one of the ways that you have to refine the practice of meditation is to notice when you think you're meditating. That's not meditation. But it's easily confused to think it is meditation, right? Why? Because you think that what you think is real. So you think you're meditating, and that would be, that would be a natural thing. Oh, I think I'm meditating. Okay, so what I'm practicing now is being aware of noticing the breath and noticing the body. When I'm noticing the breath and noticing the body, it's the awareness of the breath and the body, not a thought. It's not a thought. It's awareness of the breath and the body. Noticing is the focusing of attention that allows what you're focusing attention on to be seen, to be noticed, to be realized.
Attention or intention?
Attention and noticing. Intention is a motivational energy, right? Intention is the intention to meditate is a motivation. And one of the things that you get from studying the teachings is you get the motivation to practice meditation. Why? Because of two things. One, the teachings are telling us that the condition in which you're living your life is not natural. That's what the teachings are telling us. The condition in which you're living your life is not natural. And if you don't find that out, and if you don't practice what it takes to get free from that condition, you are going to suffer, and you are going to die. And it's going to be a tragedy, and you're going to be afraid, and you're going to go through all kinds of very difficult challenges in your experience of life, which is why people commit suicide, right? Because they can't take it, right? So when you're learning what you're learning from these wisdom teachings, you're learning that that's not the whole story. There's a condition in which human beings are living in that's an incomplete condition. It's an incomplete condition. You come into the world, right? And you come into the world and as an awareness, you come into the world and then that awareness takes on an identity. It's a necessity. It has to be so. For you to be in this life, that has to happen. The awareness takes on an identity. And then for most of humanity, that identity doesn't progress to the next phase. The next phase is to realize the identity was something that was taken on in order to function in the world, but it's not the end of the story, right? That the identity is a condition that's a limited condition in which the awareness that you are has willingly allowed itself to forget what it was. Willingly allowed itself to forget what it was in order to be a human being and live a human life and be in the world. So that happens. It's inevitable for that to happen. Then, in that condition, you're able to be in the world and enjoy the experience of being a human being, experiencing a human life in the world. However, there is suffering that begins to occur because the suffering is like, you could actually look at the suffering of a human being to be like, what do they call it when a woman is pregnant and they're starting to deliver birth? The pain? Labor, yeah. You could actually look at the suffering of a human being as labor, right? That the universe and the system is trying to put pressure on you, creating suffering, creating dis-ease, creating discomfort, right? Just pushing you to go to the next phase. The next phase, right, is to see that although the condition has to exist for me to be in the world and to be a human being, that is not the end of the story. That is not what I actually am. What I actually am is the awareness of all these things happening, and that didn't begin and that won't end. And this has been discovered already. I don't have to discover and reinvent the wheel. It's been discovered to be the case already. And this discovery is the discovery of the truth, of the way it really is. And so if you see that, if the suffering gets its job done, which is to force you to look, to seek, you see? The suffering forces the seeking to happen. You're looking for a way out. That looking for a way out might mean until you find the correct way the correct direction to go in, that looking for a way out might mean using substances. That's a way out, right? Looking for a way out, right? It may mean getting a prescription from your doctor, right? That's a way out of suffering, right? But those things don't really resolve the problem. They don't deal with the actual problem. What those things do is just modify the experience. And so one of the things, I was working with one of my clients today who's dealing with alcoholism, and one of the things they say in AA is, you may be successful. That's one of the problems with substance abuse. It does work. It does work. That's one of the problems with and it's one of the problems with prescription medication, that it works. It changes your experience, right? But it never addresses the real issue. And you can get drunk, but the next day, as W.C. Fields said, any of you remember who W.C. Fields is? He got into an argument with a guy when they were drunk, and the guy, he said to the guy, you're an idiot. And the guy said, and you're drunk. And he said, tomorrow I'll be sober and you'll still be an idiot. So that's the thing with alcohol. When it wears off, it's worse than it was before you started drinking. And it doesn't end. It ends in a very bad way, right? Because it takes over. It takes over. Yeah, so that's why you're here, right? You're here because you heard something, right? You heard something about these teachings and practices that said this is the way. In fact, it's called the way in a lot of these teachings, right? This is the way. This is the path. This is the way out, right? This is how you can go sane, right? But in order for that to happen, when the process starts, you're already crazy, you see. When the process starts, you're already totally identified with what most of humanity is identified with. The physical body, the story, right? The drama, the money, the politics, all of the stuff. You're already in the middle of all that, right, when it starts. So to begin the process of seeking means that while you're in the middle of it, you begin to identify the fact that you are living in a mistaken state. You're living in confusion. You're confused. You don't know who you are. You're confused. You don't know who you are. You're confused. You don't know what reality is, right? And so that's the first thing that you have to recognize. Okay, so I'm confused. I don't know who I am, and I don't know what reality is. The problem now is right? That as I attempt to come out of the confusion, as I attempt to see things as they are, it's who I'm confused about who I am that's doing it. Do you understand? This is so important to get, right? This is the issue. This is the issue. That when to come out of the insanity, you have to work with the insanity. The insanity is the condition that's there. You have to work with the insanity. So taking the practice from the formal practice, see, this is one of the things that you have to understand. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to do this the way I do everything. I'm going to do it for a while and see if it works. That's the way people do things, right? I'll do this the way I do everything. I'm going to do it for a while to see if it works. And when I do it, I'm going to pay attention to how hard it is, right? So that I don't make it a big deal when I quit, right? It's the way the mind works, right? So this is the way people enter into the practice of meditation, right? And then they have this naive, mythical, magical notion that if I become a Buddhist, if I become the right kind of Buddhist, like a Zen Buddhist, and I do the right thing, if I do the right practices, and I study the right material, and even if I go beyond that and go to a retreat, and really put myself in the oven, right, to give birth to this thing, whatever this thing is, then I'll be free, right? So people go and they do that, right? But what they do and what has happened here, because I've talked to different people in this group, and it's okay, nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of the process, But what happens is you practice meditation, you do it spotty, inconsistently, right? Not very refined, right? And then you say, I can't. It's not working. Doesn't work. It's not working. It's me. It doesn't work for me. I'm just not ready for it. I'm not a meditation person. My mind's racing too much, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But part of that is the ignorance of the fact that meditation, in order for it to work, you've got to use it to get leverage. The practice of meditation has to be used to get leverage with an out of balance condition. Right? The condition you're already in is way out of balance, right? You're living up here in a crazy mind that's interpreting everything wrong, that's judging and evaluate everything, right? That believes itself, right? That's full of itself. It believes its thoughts are real. It believes its thoughts are the truth, right? Operates from there, keeps failing, right? Believes the thoughts are true, operates from there, keeps failing, keeps creating more suffering, more unworkability, right? So what you have to do is understand it's not going to change. It's a condition that's not going to change just because you once in a while, meditated a little. It's not going to change because you once in a while expose yourself to the teachings. Or it's not going to change because you expose yourself to the teachings and you think you're smarter now and your smartness is going to save you. No, that's not going to happen. It's only going to work, and this is why Zen happened. Zen was a sect of Buddhism that said, we don't want a lot of ritual. We don't want a lot of the stuff that goes on in a lot of these other sects. We want to get right to the heart of the matter, and the heart of the matter is meditation. Why? Because meditation is the practice of sanity. Meditation is the practice of the truth, being who you really are, the truth of who you really are. It's the practice of that. Now, if you just practice that occasionally, or even if you practice that with intensity for brief periods of time, right, it still isn't going to make much of a difference. The reason you're practicing meditation formally is so that you can begin to practice it informally. Meditation, if it's really understood for what it is, meditation is a way of being. Meditation is how you're living is meditation. Meditation is practicing living your life as who you really are. That's what meditation is. Practicing living your life as who you really are. And when you do the meditation correctly and you're being the awareness of the body breathing, that's who you really are, aware of the body breathing, so that you're aware that the body is occurring in awareness. You are not that, it's occurring in awareness. That's what the practice is. And the more time you spend in the purity of that light of awareness, meaning that there's no thinking, right? And not only is there no thinking, but you're not doing this like you're trying to get good at a skill. No, you're doing this with an understanding that part of what allows you to meditate successfully is being relaxed. Therefore, the more you try, the less you meditate. It's being relaxed. So being relaxed means that thoughts occur. When thoughts occur, they don't disturb my relaxed state. When thoughts occur, I simply notice thoughts occurred, right? I don't have a thought after a thought occurs, oh, I don't want to think, or I shouldn't think, right? No, it doesn't matter what the thoughts are. Let them come like the clouds come in the sky, right? The clouds come in the sky, that's not a problem. The thoughts come in your mind, that's not a problem. Just relax, allow the thoughts to come because they're coming anyway. And just notice when they're here. And when they're here, just bring attention back to the breath. It doesn't have to involve strain. It doesn't have to involve efforting, right? It's just relaxed awareness, noticing what's happening. Don't try and change anything. When you're practicing meditation, it's very important to be clear that you're not meditating in order to change anything. You're not meditating to control anything. You're meditating to experience your ability to be with everything, the way it's happening. Once you have the ability to be with everything and you experience that ability and you experience the difference it makes, then it's clear to you that you don't have to keep trying to change everything. And then, of course, when you get to the more advanced concepts like thy will be done and no free will and so forth, one of the reasons the teachers don't even go there, right, is because that brings up so much confusion and so much resistance for people, you know what I mean, that it's just like, there's no point in talking about it. I talk about it because I think it is something that if you understand the importance of it, and if you understand that it is part of the truth, it's not a theory. No, it's not a theory. It's not wishful thinking. It's not magic. It's the way it is. It's part of the truth. Therefore, it makes sense for you to engage with it. And if it's confusing, fine. If it's a difficult concept to digest, fine. Take your time. Think about it. Contemplate it. Practice, right? Why? Because if the time comes when you're living in a world where thy will be done, you'll have peace. It's all true. It's all true, you see? It's all true. So for example, when you think you have free will, thy wills that you think you have free will. Thy wills that, right? Why would thy will that? Because when you're operating in this reality of time and space, you gotta operate that way. That's why thy will has you think that. Ultimately, it's not true. Ultimately, it's not true. One of the things you get from practicing meditation is you learn to pay attention in such a way where you don't take the illusion to be a reality. You're paying attention in such a way where you stop taking the illusion to be real. You stop trying to drink the water, from a mirage. You stop chasing things that won't fulfill you, like money, like substances. You stop doing that stuff and you start giving that energy and that attention to what does pay off. But it's not something that's going to happen if you just dabble in it. You've got to practice meditation formally with enough self-discipline, consistently enough that you start to see it work. You start to recognize that it is real, that it is true, that it does work. Then what? Then you make it your business to practice it in action. In life. Why would paying attention be important? So you can notice when you're getting crazy. That's why it's important. So you can notice when you're starting to go off the deep end. You can notice when you're going off the rails. And if you notice you're going off the rails, you're going off the deep end, then you can apply what you're applying when you're practicing it formally, right? If you notice you're going off the deep end, you notice you're going off the rails, then what do? You make sure you're paying very close attention to the thoughts and the emotions that are occurring at that time, right? And you make sure that you don't fall into the trap of identifying with those thoughts or emotions. If you do, you're lost. If you do, you're in the soup again. And when you're in the soup, you're in the soup. You can't remember the truth when you're in the soup, right? So you have to catch it when it's coming. You have to catch it when it's starting to happen. So you realize, okay, okay, I'm starting to get angry right now. Let me really let me hyper my attention now and really be careful about the thoughts that are occurring, be careful about the feelings I'm having, and be careful about whether or not my interpretation of what's going on is distorted or not, right? So the safe thing to do at that time is nothing. Nothing. Give yourself some time to see what's really happening before you act. This is the whole purpose of the practice of meditation. Not so you can be a spiritual person. That's egotistical bullshit, right? Not so you could be a spiritual person. No, so you could be happy. So you could function. So you could escape the tyranny of your own mind. So you can escape the tyranny of your own mind, because your mind is not programmed for your happiness. It's programmed for the survival of the body. And that's not a problem. That's okay. It's even okay that the way the program works, right? It's even okay that the way the program works is it misinterprets things that are not a threat to be a threat. That's even okay if you're aware of that. If you're aware of that, then you don't mindlessly follow that kind of thinking. You don't mindlessly follow that kind of automatic brain-mind process that goes on for most of humanity. You're now paying attention. They call it witnessing. You're witnessing what's happening now. You're not ignorant anymore. You're not sleeping anymore. You're seeing things as they're occurring. You're aware of what's happening now. And this awareness of what's happening now allows you to take care of yourself. Allows you to not allow your mind to be a toilet. You have the ability to determine what you allow your mind to do, don't you? You do, really. But not if you let your mind lead the way. What's that mean? Not if the thoughts that happen, you just mindlessly follow. When you start to have thoughts that are impractical, reactive, negative thoughts like worry, right? Worry, apprehension, concerns about the future, concerns about the past. When you have thoughts like that, when you have reactive thoughts, right, you train yourself to notice it. And when you notice it, you don't follow it. You don't allow yourself to go there. You don't let your mind go in the toilet. You don't allow your mind to be crazy. Most minds are crazy minds because they spend only a small part of the time paying attention to what needs to get done, right, the working mind, and most of the time being crazy. And so that's what you're experiencing.
So it's almost like you're controlling it by not controlling it, by just noticing it.
Yeah, because you're by noticing it, you're not controlling it, right? But you're determining what you're giving your energy to. You're not controlling it, but you're determining what you're paying attention to, right? It's just like when we practice meditation upstairs in the other room and there's noise coming from right? It's an opportunity for you to practice what you're paying attention to, right? So that if you understand what meditation is and you want to bring it into your life so it can get its job done, right? Then you have to pay attention to your life and look and see, what do I need to work on using meditation? Anger is definitely going to be one, right? I need to pay attention to anger if I'm going to succeed in getting the benefits of practicing meditation. I need to pay attention to the reactive mind. I need to pay attention to that. I need to pay attention to moods. I need to pay attention to emotions. I need to notice the moods that come and go. Moods do come and go. I need to notice those moods, right? And not only do I need to notice those moods, but I need to notice whether I am in the mood or whether a mood has occurred, right? And I'm aware of that. Do you get the difference? If you're in the mood, it's not a fun experience, is it? No. But if you are aware of the mood, and because of your practice, you know I am the awareness of the mood. I am not in it, I'm aware of it, right? If you notice that, and because you notice that, you don't resist, right? You don't resist, you allow the mood to be there, and you experience the mood as a mood. Your experience of the mood as a mood. Now you have given it attention and you've noticed it and you have distinguished it in such a way that you can be aware of it now, right? And the awareness of it allows you to realize that, okay, I can experience this. I can experience this mood. It's not going to kill me to experience this mood. And when you do that and experience the mood, it disappears. Any experience that you have disappears. The only thing you're stuck with when you're suffering is your resistance to what you don't want to experience. And then you suffer. And you keep getting more of what you don't want to experience. You know, the guys that I worked with, when I worked with people in prison, they resisted authority until they got to a point where they found themselves living under the thumb of authority 24/7 behind a 30-foot wall. That's where the resistance that's how the resistance ended up. And then they learn the hard way not to resist authority, because you resist authority when you're in prison, it's a very difficult life. Because you got people in there who are disturbed, people who are masochistic and sadistic, who are ready and willing to beat you. Ready and willing to handcuff you and beat you and throw you in a dark place for 15 days at a time. I've seen it, right? And so, the prison you're living in is really no different. The only difference is you're the jailer, you're the punisher, and you're the victim. You play all three roles, right? So there is a way out, but the only way out is if you make up your mind to discipline yourself to do the practice the way it's meant to be done consistently, and then understand you have to then translate it into the application in your life. You have to translate it into the areas of your life where craziness comes up, where suffering exists, where relationships are failing, where you're not taking care of your own mind, you're letting your mind get involved with useless, negative, reactive thoughts that provide nothing but suffering. That's the ultimate insanity, right? To allow this process up here to engage with fear and paranoia and anger and annoyance and suffering and despair, and that's what you call your life. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But in order to come out of it, you've got to get leverage. You've got to get leverage because you have, not only do you have a conditioned mind and a conditioned brain, right, that is not serving you, that's not working for you because it's your master instead of you mastering it. Not only do you have that, right, but you live in a world where that's what's going on all around you all the time. All the time. So you really got to get leverage with that somehow, right? You get leverage with that by giving your energy and your time to the truth, giving your energy and your time to the practice, and then intentionally looking to extend that practice into your life on the fly, as things are happening, as you are being challenged. And you're doing this because you notice unless you do it, your life will be a tragedy. Your life will be a tragedy. Unless you do it, your life will be a tragedy. If you do it, you can face life on life's terms, you can accept life as life is, and you can enjoy the experience. So that's the attraction, right? But the attraction has to play out with your recognition of what it's going to take from you. You've got to do this. You've got to practice meditation as if your hair's on fire. You've got to practice meditation as if your life depends on it. You've got to practice meditation to understand that only in the beginning, only when you're sitting there being the awareness of the breath, are you present and alive. Other than that, you're a puppet. Other than that, you're a mechanical person, you're a robot. Because all that's happening is the program and the machinery that's running, right, is your experience of you and your life. The program and the machinery that's running, the conditioning, is your experience of yourself and your life. And that can't be a good experience because the program is only set up for you to survive. It has no interest in whether you're having a good time. And the irony of it is, in the process of having you survive, it's actually killing you. In the process of having you survive, it has your body survive, but you're not alive. You're experiencing this conceptual misunderstanding about who you are and about what life is. So you're not alive. You're living in a thought. You're living in a thinking activity. You're living your life in a thinking activity. That's why in meditation, what are we doing? We're practicing being here, not here. in the world, in life, aware, conscious, noticing, being able to witness and see what's happening all the time, right? So that you're not lost in this machinery that goes on all the time. But it's something that really takes, it's not an easy thing to do. This is why in Buddhism, for example, they have the 3 gems, right? It's not an easy thing to do. You need a teacher, you need guidance, right? You need the teaching, the Dharma, the teaching, it's the truth. The word Dharma means truth, it's the truth. You need the teaching. You need a teacher, you need the teaching, right? And then you need a community. You need to have like-minded people who understand the truth, who are committed and dedicated to realization of the truth. Those are the 3 things that you really need to get leverage, right? To get leverage. And so that's why I said, if you come to this class on a regular basis, you can feel that part of it, that there's like-minded people. You share this with one another. I see it happening, right? It's a unique understanding for a human being to have. It's a very radical understanding for a human being to have. So if you have that, and then you have teachers, and you have the benefit of the internet right now, you can have 20 teachers. You can have 20 teachers. One of the things I love about these teachings and practices is that there's no end to discovering new teachers. Every day I find somebody else that's talking about this, and they're saying something a little different, right? And so it's just like, it ends up being like a symphony, right? Everybody's playing different instruments, right? But when they all come together, it's the truth, right? They all come together. If you listen to the violins, it's one version of the music. If you listen to, the trumpets, it's another version of the music, right? But it's music, and it all works together. It all comes together. So if you're motivated, if you get the value of this and you really want what it offers, then you'll make it your business to give your energy to having teachers, give your energy to having like-minded associates involved in this, go places where you can get that, right? Yeah, you might as well have teachers of the truth. You've had teachers of the lie. You've had teachers of the lie. And if you want to see how that works, just watch. I always say this, but it's true. Anytime you want to see what insanity looks like, turn on the TV at 6:30. That's what insanity looks like.